Okay, welcome back, veterans. Today in this episode, we are talking about interviewing skills. This is probably going to be your biggest hurdle getting your first role out of defense, because the last interview you likely had, if you left school and went straight into the military, was when you did that. So it's probably been years, and now you're going into civilian role. You don't know what they're after. Let's face it, military job interviews are easy. They want you. The military has recruiting quotas, and as long as you're not below their threshold, they will take you. So let's not even compare military job interviews to actual job interviews. In a job interview, you have to be able to sell yourself. So let's get into that, because this is probably going to be the hardest part of the experience for you. So first up, you need to practice. There are no two ways about it. You need to practice interviewing. How did you get good with your rifle when you were in? You practiced. You practiced shooting. You practiced stripping. You practiced reassembling. I remember when I was recruits, we practiced stripping and reassembling to the point that we'd have competitions doing it blindfolded. That's how you get good at anything. No one, no matter how good they are at talking, is just going to walk in and start acing interviews in the civilian world. You need to learn how to just speak freely. You need to know the questions they're going to ask. You need to learn how to actually make it a two-way conversation. So the first thing, practice. Again, find an ex-service organization, as I spoke about in the previous episode, and tell them, I don't have any interviewing skills. It's been years. I need help. And they'll help you. And once they do sit down with you and do some practice interviews, keep doing it. Keep doing it at home until it becomes so natural that you feel like a seasoned veteran at that. So the next thing when it comes to interviews, this is more for the guys, because I think the ladies are generally, let's face it, the ladies are generally better at this. Guys, it's most likely, sure, there's going to be exception industries, but it's most likely when you go for a job interview, you're going to need to wear a suit. Because here's the thing. If you show up to most interviews, whether it's corporate, whether it's construction, whatever, if you show up to most interviews in pants and a shirt, you're basically saying, I'm doing the bare minimum. If you show up in pants and a shirt and a tie, to my mind, it's a little weird. For me, you are better off showing up with trousers, a shirt, and a jacket, no tie, than wearing a tie with no jacket. Because the tie with no jacket, it makes you look too much like a corporate drone, a supplicant. A jacket flatters you. It flatters your silhouette. It flatters your physique. And the fact that you're not wearing a tie almost displays confidence. But let's face it, most interviews you're going to need to wear a full suit with tie. So, first thing, just like interviewing, you need to get used to wearing this. If you show up to your first interview wearing a suit that you just bought the day before, you're going to feel uncomfortable. Now, interviews are going to be difficult enough without you feeling uncomfortable in what you're wearing, because there's the physical discomfort of wearing a suit, and then there's the psychological discomfort. You feel like a fraud. So, first thing you're going to do is go out and buy the best suit you can afford. If you need shoes, get shoes as well. A nice polished pair of business shoes. Get yourself a pair of Oxfords. Very simple. You don't need to spend a ton of money, but don't not spend money. Don't try and cheap out. A suit, when you're wearing it every now and again, should make you feel confident. It's very much like if you wear your full dress uniform in the military, you feel confident, and a suit should be the same. So go out, buy the best suit you can afford, and take someone with you who has some kind of fashion or style sense. Or better yet, go to a place where the sales assistants have that kind of sensibility. Because you don't want to wear a suit that's too large just because it makes you feel comfortable And you don't want a suit that's too small because that's going to make you feel really uncomfortable. You want a suit that fits appropriately, that flatters your proportions. That's sort of all I can say on this without going into a half-hour long video of how a suit should fit, what you should be looking for, and all that kind of thing. But to go over sort of the basics, it should fit you well. Get a dark blue suit, dark blue or charcoal, easy peasy. Get a tie that's, maybe a maroon or that has some sort of characteristics. Because the other thing is, a lot of people will teach you with job interviews, your suit should not stand out. Wear a gray suit with a white shirt and a gray tie. Well, okay, Mr. No Personality, that's going to do you great when it comes to them remembering all the candidates. Because there's what I think is a mistaken belief in just job interviews, employment in general, that your resume should be the thing that stands out. No, companies are hiring a person, and you want to work for someone that cares about what you have done and who you are as a person. And if you show up in a shell that looks the same as everyone else, well, you're going to get treated the same as everyone else. The best job interviews I had were when I turned up in a suit that made me feel good. I wore a bold tie and no one questioned it. So yeah, don't dress too much like a shell. Now, if you like a charcoal suit, go a charcoal suit. If you like the navy suit, wear a navy suit. If you like a dark brown suit, go with a dark brown suit. As long as it makes you look good and it has an appropriate level of formality. So, for example, in Western countries like Australia, Canada, that kind of thing, walking into an interview in a cream suit, probably not the best idea, because the typical culture is a formal business suit is navy, charcoal, gray, or any other dark color. Now, in other countries, it might be different. So feel free to ask more questions in the comments about that. I feel like I've talked about it too much already. So we've covered practice your interviews. We've covered how to dress. The next thing you need to think about is the actual interview itself. Practice interviews are to help you get good and more comfortable with interviewing. But now I want you to take it a step further in terms of how you think of the interview as a whole. Most people, and I'd say most people in general, not just veterans, most people see a job interview as an interrogation. They have to give all the right answers. Oh my God, I've got to answer the way that they're expecting to so they'll like me and they'll want to give me the job. Once you get to a certain level, you stop thinking like that. If you are really good at what you do, I'm interviewing you just as much as you're interviewing me. And so that's why, good career advice will say during the interview, you need to ask questions as well. But here's the thing. You don't want to ask BS throwaway questions. You want to ask targeted questions. So I can't tell you exactly what questions you want to ask. If I was going for a new role in another company, here's the sort of questions I would ask. I would ask, who am I reporting to? Who do they report to? What's their place in the overall structure of the organization? I'd ask, who's on my team? Who was the last person to have this job and why did they leave? What does success in my role look like for the first 3, 6, 9, and then 12 months? Who's the sort of person most typically successful in this role and why? Like, I really want to zoom in on the level of influence the team I'm joining has. I want to know how I'm going to be successful, all those kinds of things. I don't want to ask BS questions for the sake of, he asked a few questions. No, I want to get a really good read on what I'm getting into. And that's what you want to be doing as well. And the final thing you want to do around interviewing, you want to ask for feedback because you've never done this before. So when you're doing your practice interviews, hopefully they will give you a lot of feedback on what you need to improve. But if they don't, you need to ask for it. when you go for those first jobs, if you get rejected, don't just move on to the next one. Ask. And ask in a way that's non-confrontational. Not why didn't I get the job? Hey, I'm new at this. I realize I still have some kinks to work out. Can you give me feedback on how I interviewed? On where I might have been lacking in whatever areas compared to the person who did get the role? You want to what you essentially want to do is create a safe space for them to give you feedback. Because the second you're confrontational, they'll just give you a BS response that gets rid of you. So make it really clear that, hey, I'm just trying to improve and I'd really appreciate your help. And most people will be able to give it to you. If they don't, look, a lot of people are scared about getting sued these days because, people take legal action over everything. So if you get what seems like a BS answer, a quick BS answer, then look, maybe try again and give them that, try and make it even more safe for them. But if not, look, sometimes that's just the way it is. And to be honest, if a potential employer rejects you and doesn't give you anything, if they just ghost you, then look, there's a good chance maybe you didn't want to work there in the first place. Hey, I'm the last person to defend that kind of behavior. I don't like it. I got ghosted by a lot of government agencies. And even to this day, I still don't understand how it could be that quick and simple for them. But look, it's just the world we live in, and you're going to have to accept some of these things. Those are the three main things I really wanted to cover today. If there are other interviewing questions you want to ask, please go ahead in the comments. I read them all. I will answer you. And look, if they're big enough, I'll do a follow-up episode on them. Please like and subscribe. Share this with other veterans that it can help. And I'll see you for the next episode.